Good morning, all out there in digital land. This is Dusty. I am here with Michael Holmes from Delta Restoration. Hi, Michael.
How are you?
I am wonderful, thank you. Having a very fast paced week. As you saw on Monday, I was in yah mode. I had my little hat on and everything, and watching two children under the age of 2 at my age, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, is really exhausting. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, the good news is you can give them back when you're done. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yes, I think it's Saturday at 11. At least that's what I have in my mind. So I'm looking for my daughter to come collect them at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. So anyway, we advertised this segment as COVID and, the help that has been um, offered, the handout that has been offered, and really what is that going to mean to you and
Yeah.
how is it affecting you, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Um, COVID. I mean, it just turned everything financially upside down for everybody, and lenders and realtor or in credit card companies and everybody else wanted to keep those customers, obviously, not lose all their money. So
sure.
they came out with a bunch of help, right? And all these other opportunities that people could take to lessen their financial burden through this crisis. Well, that help is now coming to an end, right?
Right.
And now it's now their hand is back out asking for the money, and for a lot of people, things haven't gotten any better than what it was 6 months ago or 3 months ago. Some people are doing better, but the vast majority aren't. And so now the question becomes, well, how does that help translate into continued help, or does it now hurt us? And how do we move forward from here, especially from a credit perspective, because that even the whole credit industry has changed in the last 6 months as a result of the COVID. So,
Really?
so
So
now we're dealing with the aftermath.
how is that? How is that? I mean, what do you mean it's changed? So talk to me a little bit about what that means.
Well, on the financial
Credit.
side, the
Yeah.
main thing that's changed is the guidelines have changed. They've tightened up on guidelines, so you can't have as much debt as you used to before. You can't have the same types or the amount of derogatory accounts that you had before and still get approved for loans that you would have a year ago, because lenders are afraid of things like unemployment. They're afraid of furloughs. They're afraid of things that really weren't an everyday issue with borrowers. So the criteria has tightened up.
Yeah.
So if you've got stuff on your credit report, which leads to the second change, that you need to fix to become lendable, well, now that process has slowed as well. It used to be that if you dispute something in 30 days, they have to respond. That's no longer the case. So
Uh,
the bureaus can take months and months and months to get back with you on a disputed item, and you just have to wait. So
wow.
it takes a lot more prep work. It takes a lot more diligence. You can't just sit there on hold for 1 hour. You're gonna have to sit there for 3 hours on hold and repeatedly go after them for stuff. So
Well, I'll share a story I just heard and I thought it was so interesting. So I had an agent working with a 19-year-old, 19, 20-year-old young man.
Mhm.
Everything was good. She was talking to him on the phone. They were heading to the closing. The bank, and I guess it's a new practice like you're talking about, bank called the company, got
Mhm.
verification
Of
of
employment.
employment that
Mhm.
morning, right?
Right.
And they actually did not know that the gentleman did not know that the company was closing their doors.
Yeah.
So they called him to explain that he couldn't do closing today. And he's like, I don't know why. Why not? What's changed? And they said, well, your job, you don't have a job anymore. And he's like, what are you
Oh my
talking about?
God.
So,
Yeah.
there's like, it's crazy, right? It's
Yeah.
just,
Never consider a closing till it's closed, right?
it's closed, right? That's really kind of the theme right now.
Yeah.
It is. It's scary, but that does seem to be like a factor. So
Yes.
let's talk about. All right. So we had like question mark help on the front end and question mark help on the back end. what if I have late pays from COVID? How is that being looked at credit wise?
Well, just like it did before COVID. And that's the
Okay.
problem, is that a lot of people were under the assumption that they didn't have to make a payment. And they may not have had to make a payment with the account closing or without a fee. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't going to mark you late on your credit report, because the law says that they have to report accurately. So the accuracy of it is that you didn't pay. Now, a lot of times this happens a lot with mortgage modifications as well, right? It's very similar. So since forever, if you go into a loan modification, they're going to say, okay, stop paying for 90 days while we figure out what your new payment's going to be. They're still going to mark you late during that time, right? Even though you're getting the help, they're not there to help your credit. They're there to help your financial burden. So you're really going to want to go back each creditor during this process, although there were federal kind of guidelines as to how they help their people. How they specifically helped was a per company decision on how they were going to roll that out. So really, if you participated in these furloughs or deferments or whatever you had going on with your creditors, hopefully you signed something, right? Or they sent you something explaining how it would work. And you can see, well, now you have something that you can hold them accountable to, right? Because if they marked you late and the policy says that they wouldn't, now you have a leg to stand on. If you didn't sign anything or there's no sort of formal agreement, you're going to have to dispute that stuff with the bureaus. And we have different techniques that you can use to help make that better. The main one being is don't ask them to lie for you. So if you've gone through COVID and got the help from a late pay perspective, you can always ask them to just go back and not report. So if you look on a credit report, sometimes there's an NR on there. The NR means they're just not reporting that month. So get them to do that instead of lying and saying that you did pay it on time. Or if there are some sort of, if you can simply argue with customer service that there was a break in communication on how that was going to roll out, sometimes that'll be good enough too, because you're not going to be the only one with this problem. You know what I mean? There's going to be multiple calls coming in. And this is why I can't wait for next year. But there's going to be a lot of calls on this very same subject. Now, that's from a credit reporting perspective.
Right.
Now we're going to talk about the actual financial perspective, because now you've got 3 months worth of payments that are due in some cases. And this could be your car, this could be your house, this could be your credit card, your student loans, whatever. And now they want a balloon payment. So that's a little bit more challenging because your pay may not be up to speed yet, or you're still paying old debts from other places. So really, what we have always told our clients, the cornerstone to the credit repair is never found in the credit report. The cornerstone to your credit repair is always found in your bank statement. How you're handling your assets will determine how you handle your debts. And things like COVID, as weird as it is, when you kind of take a step back and look at it from a holistic perspective, this sort of thing happens to people all the time. People get sick all the time. People lose their jobs all the time. And we have to be financially prepared for those things. So if you're going through a credit repair process and that credit repair process doesn't include, well, how do I fix my finances? Then you're missing half the battle. And so especially now we're having to go back and renegotiate what I owe and say a balloon payment or whatever, you're going to need that budget up front, because that's not something that I can help you fix. You're going to have to do your own budget and figure out, well, how am I going to address this now deficiency that the lenders now want me to pay.
So I think it's interesting, like this COVID nightmare that we've all just experienced. I mean, it's brought on and opened up a lot of different ways to do business. Mm-hmm. I know the insurance industry now has a policy that they've got and that they're selling that is a protection for your income. It's not a disability policy, but should you have a pandemic and not be able to work, now you can put some protection over your income.
Way to make money on it now.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are a lot of things that are going on, and it really has opened your mind for possibilities that maybe you never really thought of. Because, I mean, did you ever think that you would see a pandemic that shut our countries down? Ever?
No, but I mean, you got to figure 9/11 shut us down. I'm pretty sure the country's going to get shut down again in November, just in anticipation of what's going to happen. I mean, to say that there isn't life's disruptions, I think is kind of, putting your head in the sand. So,
Yep.
And that's really for us what credit repair has always been about. It's about financial buoyancy. Lenders, they want to know that you can pay them when bad things happen.
Correct.
Right. And really, when, it's not always just about the score, it's about what assets you have, your income levels, and your credit score. So you need to really start focusing on, just like how people are trying to make money off the pandemic, you need to start figuring, well, how am I going to prevent how has my own behavior going to help protect me against other types of life events that may be akin to a COVID situation, could last 6 months, 8 months, a year of your life and disrupt it. Well, how are we going to prepare for that kind of stuff? And that's really what it's all about.
Yep. I agree.
It's a new perspective on credit, because it's no longer about the score anymore, because really the score for a lot of people are going to be messed up for the next 7 years,
Right.
potentially. So what's going to happen is you're going to see a shift probably in credit requirements. This happened in 2008 to 2013, when your credit score isn't just about your behavior, it's also about the behavior of everybody around you. It's a relative thing. It's like insurance. So hopefully we'll see a decrease in the requirements after the pandemic is kind of over with. But right now they're sky high. So the key right now is communication. Communicate with your lenders, communicate with your bank, so that if you're going into a lending environment and you've got this COVID hangover, right?
I like that.
You need to know, well, do I drink a Bloody Mary with it, or do I, get some more sleep or drink water? Let the bank tell you what they want you to do to fix it and go that way with it, because you got to appeal to the lender.
So Michael, let me ask you this. If I accepted a forbearance, isn't that what they were calling it, on the mortgage?
Uh-huh.
And now they're coming to me and they want a balloon payment and I don't have the money. Now what happens?
They're going to foreclose.
Okay.
I mean, you either go into a modification, right, which is what the first step is going to be. And then after you go through the modification, if that doesn't work, then you're looking at, well, do I file bankruptcy to keep the house, right? And if that's really not an option, short sale, foreclosure, I mean, it's not going to be pretty for a lot of people. But it is so rampant. Most lenders aren't going to just kind of turn their head and just let things fall, because this is why we had to bail out Bank of America, right? There are so many off-kilter loans that if nobody pays, the whole system collapses. So I'm sure there'll be, as on a per lender basis, an opportunity, but really I think you're gonna see a huge spike in loan modifications. And the good thing is that interest rates are super, super low still, so that'll benefit them. But your options right now are going to be the same that they were before COVID. That has not changed.
Okay. So any recommendations for our viewers on what to do? I know that you, as a credit restoration company, are a great go-to if there's something going on with your credit and you don't quite understand it.
Right.
Michael's excellent in his field, and I would definitely use him as a go-to guy. So is there any advice that you have for our viewers that we would be able to maybe help them a little bit?
Of course. One, do your budget first. Before you do anything else, figure out your money right. The second thing you want to do is communicate, and you want to communicate in writing as much as you can with those companies that you've participated in programs with. Make sure you have a clear understanding of what their expectations are. And then once you've got your budget together, you'll know, can you meet those expectations, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't, then you got to communicate. A lot of times what people will do is when money goes bad, they just stop, right? It's an old psychology thing. I have actually a degree in psychology, of all things. And if you want to teach a rat to go through a maze, right, you shock the rat. because if you shock in one direction, it goes in the other direction, and it learns faster when there's pain, right? But if you shock a rat every time it moves, it just stands still, right? And it does nothing. And a lot of times that's what we do financially. We just stand still, close our eyes, and hope that it's all going to change. It's not. It's just going to get worse. So you got to communicate. You got to be proactive. Seek help if you need it. You can come to us. We always give free consults. You never pay a credit repair company up front. You can go to a CPA. You can go to your banker. I mean, hopefully they're trained in more than just how to open checking accounts, right? And you can get the advice that you need, get the help that you need, because there will be, because it is a pandemic, there is going to be help out there. So don't be afraid.
And I do think that too. I don't think they're just going to drop you like a hot potato, but I do think that you're going to find it's not a standardization across.
Exactly. They want their money. It's not, you're going to lose in the long run, but you're just trying to minimize your losses. You know what I mean?
Okay. So we're not trying to scare anybody out there, right?
No, definitely not. But the thing is you've got to handle it, right?
Right.
If you're behind 3 months in your payment, they still want their 3 months worth of payments, but maybe you cannot get the interest and the fees and, and all that goes with it. If you're communicating, if you don't communicate, you can just anticipate paying those things. But if you're proactive and you're doing what you're supposed to do to the best of your ability, I think you're going to be just fine.
Yeah. So the key here is communicate and get it in writing.
Yes.
So whatever they've said to you, like I went through a not a consolidation, getting out of debt. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
And one of the things that the person I was working with was telling me that he made sure everything I did, I had a documentation letter from the company so that if they ever came back, I could say, no, this has been completed. This is where we are. So it's important when we're doing these things that you are listening to Michael's counsel. Get it in writing. Communicate, especially if it's your home. We don't want you to lose your home, right? So talk to the bank, talk to your lender, whoever holds your mortgage, open that line of communication. Don't wait for them to come to you.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're paying them, make sure you want, just like in writing a letter, you want to make sure that the method that you're paying them has a paper trail too. Don't use things like money orders, try to use cashier's checks, personal checks, debit cards, so that there's proof that you met the expectation along the way too.
Gotcha. All right. So Michael, anything else you'd like to tell the audience today?
Yes, you can always check out our YouTube channel. We're at Delta Credit Restoration on YouTube. Every week we come out with a new video. As a matter of fact, today we have coming one out in about an hour and a half. So tune in for that. And it's not a commercial. It's not fluff. It's not hype. It's what we really do for our clients. And it's kind of the backstory to it all. So tune into that. Also, if you're out there and you do need the help, recognize if you go to a credit repair company in the state of Florida, you never have to pay a credit repair company up front. They have to give you 5 days to cancel without any financial obligation. So the help doesn't have to cost you money right away. You can get the help that you need. You can get the advice that you need, put all that together and make a decision as to how you want to move forward.
Yeah. And I will tell you, honestly, work with a local credit restoration company. Do not do the online programs. It's like a mortgage lender. They have to see you in public. They play, your kids play with their kids. Yeah. There's a lot to be said
about accountability,
for having that personal contact. Like you can go see Michael in his office if you need something and you're just not understanding it. So you can't do that when you're going with a virtual program. So please, whatever you do.
And it's not about the score, right? You want to, what I always tell people, if you go to like a Lexington Law of the World, it's kind of like going to Walmart. If you come to a place like Delta, it's like a boutique. So it's just more attention to detail, more well-rounded product. It's not a numbers game for us. So.
Gotcha. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being my guest today. I appreciate you. And I know I'll be seeing you around, and check out his channel. He actually gives you some very good information. They're all very informational. So check out his channel, Delta Credit Restoration. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you.